us again for our third parent forum. This forum will have a little different guidelines to it, as we're going to focus on special education and try to get some more specifics of the plan. So we're hopeful that some parents have joined in on previous forums. This one will still have some of the general information. We have Mr. O'Mealy from the high schools here with us today. Christine Smith is our special education director, Nancy Rad, Sandra Pelikowski, and John Nutzel, our communications director. So we look forward to your questions. We'll answer what we can. We'll go through a brief PowerPoint. It's probably about 20 slides less than previous examples, and we'll go through here. So this is an updated plan. As we've said before, we continue to change these. We submitted this plan again to the state on August 14th. So there were some iterations of this. We had an original one that was edited. Since then, we've had 3 prominent components of the plan on top of the website for that was required for the Department of Health, and that's all been updated. As we move through this process, we have said from the beginning, this is flexible. So the schedules are flexible to allow for changes. The schedule allows for kids to be remote or in school. And we have a capital project going on. We have a number of other items in the buildings. When we're ready and we feel it's safe for students, we will be opening. There's a tentative schedule that I'll go through in a minute that has an orientation that has students coming in on that purple and gold rotation starting September 21st. But bottom line is those things can ultimately change. So we have had a great partner. Chris Deffabaugh from the YMCA came to one of my superintendent meetings at BOCES. They have capacity for daycare. Now, it is a Johnstown facility, so it's not the most central location for families in Amsterdam, but I put this information out there that you can contact the Y if you're looking for daycare. This is for teachers, families in our area that need daycare to be able to work. So they've been very helpful. They had as many as 75 spots open as of last week. I don't know what that number's at now. These facilities are very popular, and everybody's trying to get something in the way of childcare.
Excuse me, Mr. Roberti. The Amsterdam has a YMCA site from Cap Region BOCES, and they're open to take kids for the whole day too.
They are too. Okay.
Yes. So that's on our website.
Okay, that's on our website. Okay, so this is an additional Y. Good, thank you. Mm-hmm. So the Amsterdam site has that also with capacity, and the Johnstown one does as well. So thanks. So we went through this before, and it's pretty basic of the understanding of remote learning versus homeschool. Since we put this up, we really haven't had any homeschool applications come through. Basically, if you do remote learning, we are taking over the education of your child. They're doing the work that the teachers assign with online classes. The family and school work together, and we do the grading on our end. Homeschool is you submit the plan of what you're going to do. It goes through a BOCES representative, and you're in charge of their sole responsibility of engagement and completion of work. So remote is what we've had. The vast majority, almost 1,500 people have signed up for this option. So, we get that message that people aren't quite ready to send their kids to school yet. As much as we're doing everything to assure you that we're creating a safe environment, we understand that there's still parents that are tentative. So, but I wanted to go through that so you have the difference between those two. And this again was added. We've extended the deadline until tomorrow for anybody to register for the remote only. And we just ask that you're committing to this for 10 weeks, trimesters in the elementary, in order for us to schedule correctly for our staffing needs. And remote will follow this K through 5. Wednesday will still be that full remote day for all students, even if they're in the purple and gold section. So that's that Monday, Tuesday cohort, the purple, Wednesday full remote, and then Thursday, Friday is that cohort that comes back into the school. Right now, we're going to have Christine Smith, our special education director, take over because there's been a number of questions that were based on that. So, and if you want to click it too. Thanks. Okay.
Am I just hitting the green button?
Right side, the right arrow.
Oh, got it. Okay. So the collaboration, we know that our special ed students have the highest needs and have some unique needs. So we're going to continue that collaboration and communication between all of our providers and parents. That won't change from years past. In fact, we'll increase that and make sure we can do whatever we can to certainly meet not only student needs, but parent needs as well. And that will take place whether in person, excuse me, or remote. All students with an IEP will certainly receive all the services that are on their IEP, all modifications, all accommodations. So please be assured that will be followed. The same with regard to therapies. Therapies will be provided, but that will again be through a combination of in-person and remote. So changes. Previously in our forums, we discussed special ed students in special class coming daily, Monday through Friday. The change right now is Wednesday. Excuse me. All special class students will be here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesday, students will engage in remote learning. So they'll be online with their teacher from home, just as with their peers. Hours for elementary, the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday will be 9:30 to 2:30, and secondary, the 7:50 to 1:30. On Wednesday, we're going to offer in-person related services. So our students who are home, engaging in remote learning, our students who have multiple services, they'll have an opportunity to engage with a therapist in person on Wednesday. And there'll be more information about that coming, how that schedule will be developed. Our goal is certainly to ensure that that in-person therapy takes place as much as possible. So while we won't offer instruction that day, we'll offer related services. So again, why the change? We know back in early July, we did a survey through the CSE office that really indicated about 50% of our parents of special class students weren't comfortable sending their children back to school. We see obviously that increase in enrollment for remote learning option. We know that all other students are engaging in instruction on Wednesday. So again, just looking at some different options to best service our students. The next discussion is on masks. All students per New York State are required to wear a mask in school and on the bus. And we've received a number of calls about that. Again, if you believe your child's unable to wear a mask due to a medical condition, there are some steps you need to follow. First, you need to talk to your child's doctor. That's the very first thing. Have that conversation. If through that conversation you believe your child cannot, and the physician believes your child cannot wear that, you need to provide that medical documentation to school. That would be either to the building principal or to myself. With that medical documentation, we'll work on a 504 plan or certainly update an IEP. That accommodation may look a little bit different. You know, we'll be asking things like, can you wear the mask but have increased breaks? Can you wear a mask for, longer stretches, or shorter stretches with longer breaks? Looking at how we can best support that mask wearing that is required, but also meet the needs of your child. One-to-one aid. So a number of parents have reached out because their child has a one-to-one aid. Certainly, we know that practicing social distancing, if you have a one-to-one aid, is not going to be possible. So our aides will be provided with the resources and the PPE that they need to maintain the health and safety of both students and staff. Related services, just again, to the greatest extent possible, we will be providing those related services. It definitely will be a combination of in-person and remote. We're going to try and support the students in their academic classes with related services, so we can reduce that, pulling students out of their academic class and that valuable instructional time. And again, just that in-person and remote. And again, that collaboration with parents, because I know that's always challenging to schedule those sessions. CSE meetings. So back in March, I forget what month we're at now. Back in March, when all this started, we obviously were in the middle of annual reviews. We had great success with CSE meetings being held virtually, so we will continue that moving forward. You'll receive information in the mail, via email or in the mail. Certainly with login information, you can call in through the Google Hangout, or you can simply click the link that's provided. We've had great success with parent participation, so that definitely is something we're going to continue. I would say you probably want to check with either Kim Spagnola or Tim or Stacy in the CSE office, or even the building principal, and make sure your email and phone numbers are current. We do run into that, having not updated information, so you want to make sure that that information is current. Evaluations and re-evals. So, every 3 years we need to do re-evaluations of our special education students. Those will continue in the timely fashion that they're required to be done. Evaluations, again, 60 days from the day of consent. Those will continue. Those will be in person, certainly following those health and guidance protocols from the Department of Health. We'll wear masks, and that any additional PPE will be provided, both to the student and the staff. A records review. So some parents may be wondering at some point, was a records review completed? There was certainly that collaboration back in the school year for re-evals, looking at past documentation, past notes, past academic records. So a records review also can be completed for a re-evaluation, certainly with your consent as well. Changes to IEPs and amendments. So we talked a little bit about masks. If your child is going to struggle with a mask, you provide us with that medical documentation. That documentation in and of itself is not enough. It is enough for us, but we need to make changes on our end. So from a CSE perspective, from a special education perspective, we can make that change. We can have that meeting. We can do that through that amendment without a meeting. However, you need to sign the amendment. So I need to get that amendment back. You can take a picture of it and email it to me. You can mail it. We now have a Dropbox outside the CSE office. But until we have your signature, your written signature, there's nothing we can do. So please, 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 no changes official until we have your written signature. That's really for any change in an IEP, but my focus really is on the mask piece, because I know there's a lot of people reaching out about concern with that. So please know that simply providing that medical documentation is just one step. Important information, just a follow-up, make sure that we have current phone numbers and emails. All students in special education have a case manager at school. You should be in contact. They should be in contact with you. They're your first people to contact. Certainly, if you have a question or concerns, they're that advocate for your child. Certainly, you're welcome to reach out to myself, to Stacy Jansen or Tim Moulter. Both are the CSEs. Stacy is for elementary and Tim is for middle school and high school. If you have questions or concerns, you can reach out to all of us or any of us.
There was a special ed question for you.
Sure.
It's about therapy.
Sure.
Would it be possible to have a student's day start prior to 9:30 to do pull-out therapies before class time?
So we're continuing to look, So we're continuing to look at scheduling and what will work. I know. So we're continuing to look at scheduling, again, knowing that in-person therapy makes the most sense. But keeping in mind in between that we have to clean and do a variety of things as well. So nothing's off the table when it comes to scheduling. That's a vague answer, but.
Okay.
She'll let me know. Huh? She'll let me know.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Christine. So as we kind of finish out, we want to leave time for questions today. And also Mr. Amelia is here for any specific questions to the high school that you might have. And I have a sample schedule I'm going to show too in a second. But obviously we're going to sanitize rooms. Wednesdays at Deep Clean where we do a fogging machine. Students are required to wear masks throughout the day. We're building in short breaks, working out that schedule for what that will look like. They're not going to be allowed into the building or onto buses unless they have a mask on to start with. So, we've ordered a tremendous amount of PPE equipment. The district has taken on a tremendous cost throughout this. I was working with Ms. DiCaprio this morning, and we have $450,000 basically in costs thus far for COVID, and then another $600,000 to $800,000 in computers we have to get. So there's a substantial undertaking on the side of the district that has yet to be funded on the federal or state level as we go through this. But we are getting all the supplies that we need and working to provide everything that's necessary to open schools safely. Other components, we are working directly with Sarah Baranko, who's been a tremendous asset for all of us here in the county. She's a dynamo that doesn't stop working and continuously updates us. Anything that occurs in the school as far as any type of COVID-related positive test, we will work directly with them for contact tracing, for sharing information out, and the process that we'll have for that. So here's our tentative schedule going back to school right now. As it looks, is we start on the 9th and 10th, or the September 10th and 11th, and this allows our teachers to come in, start getting reacclimated to being in school, but also for students to start their virtual instruction. And this is kind of a beginning of the day, meet their teachers online, but start getting some work. We have yet to have a waiver from the state. We have 180 days that we have to have instruction for. We also have 990 hours. It's my understanding the Board of Regents will waive that 990 hours. It's not official yet, as far as I know. But the 180 days probably is not going to be waived. So we have to make sure that students are getting instruction right from the beginning. The week of the 14th through the 18th is remote learning for all. No students will be in the building that second week of September, with the exception of orientation. So we thought it was important that kids that are new to a school have the opportunity to come in. Pre-K and kindergarten will have individual meetings where it'll be 15 or 20 minutes for each parent to come in with their child to meet the teacher in a one-on-one setting without a large crowd of any type, to allow a safe environment for that. But we really felt that pre-K and K were important for them to see their teachers. And then self-contained classes will also have orientation plans that will be shared with at another time. And then the week of September 21st is when we actually start the full in-person instruction that starts at that purple and gold groups rotating. And then the online classes, obviously, for remote learning will be in session too. So, but that's our schedule. So really no students except orientation until September 21st. First week will be orientation for students, getting used to the building, getting used to the online learning platform. We've had several meetings with Bob Barden from our food service. Meals are going to be prepackaged. They'll have social distancing either in the classrooms at the elementary or in the cafeterias in the secondary. There'll be really limited choices: a salad, a sandwich, a deli sandwich, or a peanut butter and jelly. And they'll be prepackaged where they just grab them, because we can only have one student at the line at a time. So you can think of that process to get 100 or 150 kids through in a lunch period. So it really can't be a choice of certain things. Just it'll be that 3 choices that'll be prepackaged. In hallway traffic, our principals have done a great job. We've ordered signage that'll have, one-way directionals, spacing for 6 feet, all over the schools and each respective school. So we'll keep working on that as much as we can to limit traffic. Code of conduct will still be followed. It will be hopefully updated at the Board of Education meeting tomorrow. We have some addendums of how this matches with COVID-related issues of wearing masks and just not following the basic rules of code of conduct. So we need parents to understand and students to understand the importance of keeping one another safe. We can set up all these guidelines and requirements, but if they're not followed, it's going to create an issue for everybody. So we will be enforcing this very strictly in the beginning of the year and hope not to have many issues. We ask you to take your child's temperature before coming into school every day. We will have temperature checks at the entrances for everyone coming in, and there'll be there's a screening tool that we have. This is one of the costs the district has taken on, over $20,000 to get scanners that allow us to scan a number of students at a time. And then we'll have social distancing with the desks throughout the day and throughout every classroom. As of now, backpacks are not allowed in K through 5. 6 through 12 is going to be regulated. Do you want to talk about that? What's your plan on those for high school? We've had a lot of questions.
So, right now, the lockers will not be distributed to start the school year. So that's a conversation myself and the building leadership team will have discussing backpacks. I think at the secondary level, students have a lot of materials to bring. We're encourage Chromebooks being used in the building. So, information will be coming. Just check the website for updates. And one question that a parent posted, when will be the orientation? When will the schedules be sent out? We're waiting for final numbers, and our target date to mail out materials is September 3rd. That's our target date.
September 3rd.
Yeah, that's our target date. So a lot of this information will be contained in that packet.
Good, thank you.
There, just so you know that all the principals are on the Google Meet.
Okay, good.
So if you have questions.
They can answer those.
They can answer them. And Mrs. Hannon has taken, the teachers and Mrs. Hannon have looked at the supply list, and because of what's happening, they've abbreviated it. So
Good, I
Mr.
thought they
will
would.
change that later for us.
Okay, great. Yeah, the supply lists have been probably edited and reduced, I'm sure. So, so if you guys have specific questions on the backpacks, and again, Chromebook usage, what I envision is Chromebooks would stay home, but that's going to be grade level and building level decisions because teachers are probably going to want to use those throughout the day. Certain grade levels can handle going back and forth with them. I stated in other forums, I could see my son, who's going to be in 10th grade, leaving his Chromebook at home half the time and not bringing it to school when they needed it. So that's going to be, case by case, but it's good. We're going to allow the principals to make that decision. Obviously, limiting school visitors to the building, and we'll be going over training for proper hand hygiene for staff and students. We went through this before. This is just that gold and purple, what that rotation looks like for the 2 days consecutive, Monday, Tuesday. Right now, when you look at our numbers too, as we create our environment to be the safest environment possible, we have 50% of our students almost right now signed up for remote learning at 1,500 students out of 3,700. So we're closing in on 50%. We were only looking at 25% of students in the elementary being there each day. So you're getting down to really small class numbers, which is a good thing to start. We wanted this slow rollout to kind of open up slowly and make sure everything's working and the processes we have are working. There's no playbook for this. There's no text we can go to say, how do you go about doing this? Because every school, 700 of us strong, are kind of making this up as we go along and doing the best we can. I think we have a very solid program that's allowed for flexibility and has listened to the feedback. And ultimately, our high school, when you have maybe 400 kids in each of the cohorts in a day instead of 600 or 700. So we've really reduced those numbers. So this alternate day schedule is going to have, so many fewer kids than we originally even anticipated because of the remote only. But we'll still have that 2-day rotation with a deep clean on Wednesday with full remote learning for all. Lunchtimes.
There's a question regarding that.
Yeah.
So if our numbers continue to grow for remote online learning only, will we be able to add 4 days to the students who are in person?
Oh, it's possible. So would we add, would we have kids 4 days a week? That would change the entire structure of the schedule. That's why we ask people to commit to that for 10 weeks or trimesters to the elementary. It could be something we look at down the road, but we've made so many changes to that schedule that I would say maybe at 10 weeks we would look to change it, because we also might find that people don't love the remote only option and want to go back into school, or we might find that people in school want to go back to want to switch to remote eventually. So it's all going to depend on feedback from students and parents, and so we would look at it, but we wouldn't look at it for 10 weeks to have that as an option.
Just to add to that, parents have to remember that even though a student is not in the building, we have to hold that space for the students if they're actually here, because they will be if they want to come back. So we have to plan for every single student being in the building. So that's why we can't go back and forth. We have to plan as if they're here.
Good answer. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So these are all some of the basics we went through previously. Lunch times. The lunch is spread out here. You can see over a long period of time that we have lunch to allow for social distancing, and each grade level has a specific time that they'll be eating in the elementary, and then high school times. You've gone over four periods again for this to allow, and you have desks set up in the cafeteria,
We're
right?
removing the group tables, and we're going to have individual desks in
Yeah, high school's done a really great job, as all of our schools have, allowing for some, social distancing in the cafeteria, some level of normal. Kids might actually be able to talk to one another a little bit to get that time, but be, far enough distance away to be safe. So, excellent job. Underlying health conditions, we had asked before if you have any to contact the CSE office or the building principal, and that can be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. Someone will follow up with you, and Ms. Smith had already talked about that in the beginning. Special education, we already hit on this before with the either remote or in person. Those related services now will happen on Wednesday for those students, or it could happen.
They're going to happen. So the remote related services will happen Monday through Friday.
Right, first.
In person, they will happen Monday through Friday, and remotely Monday through Friday.
Right.
Your child will receive a combination of those.
Right, and then on Wednesday they'll have other.
In person and remote. Yep.
Yep.
You got
Okay.
it.
So access, we've had a couple of specific questions about access where people didn't have it previously. We'll work with everyone that we can. We do have that relationship with Spectrum. We've purchased 100 of the hotspots, Kajit, I think it's called, Kajit.
Yes, yep.
So we have 100 of those that are through Spectrum and AT&T, or through Verizon and AT&T. So we can hand those out if people need those. We do have a couple that don't have either cellular or broadband. So we're going to have to work on those individually with those families, but we are doing everything we can to get access to as many people as possible. And I had mentioned before, Central Civico should have 20 of our Chromebooks as well, so they have a central place to go to. So extracurricular athletics, social distancing will be in effect. You have to be 12 feet apart for any type of phys ed class. No interscholastic sports. It's supposed to be September 21st that you can start practices. One of the questions we've had over and over again is, can a student who participates in remote only also participate in athletics? The answer is yes, if we have sports. Extracurriculars will be examined if we can, but right now the biggest question has been athletics. So yes, you can do remote only and still participate in sports. Extracurriculars are probably going to be pretty limited this year, as you can imagine. So we talked about orientation, and we had that. Before, in previous forums, we put this out there too, so students can get used to wearing a mask. This was a recommendation we'd seen on another site, so hopefully kids are getting used to wearing them. I see everybody out in public is wearing them, so we suggest, this week having 3 hours a day of getting used to wearing the mask, and building up over the next few weeks to get used to that process. Our contact information, it's also on our school website for any of the people involved here. If you have questions please feel free to reach out. We want to address as many questions as we can prior to school opening, because, we're learning through this process. When you provide a great question, it's something that makes us think and review what we're doing, and it's another perspective maybe we didn't look at it from. So we appreciate the feedback. And Chromebooks, we've asked people to return their Chromebooks, and we've had pretty good luck with that, but we still have a number that are out. If you didn't return your Chromebook, there will be a process we go through in the beginning of the year of when we distribute them, that you'll be on a waiting list, and we'll have to discuss that on a case-by-case basis if we didn't get the last one out. So we'll get access to as many people as possible, but we can't continue to hand out Chromebooks to everybody every year. It just doesn't work. So you want to go through questions, Ann?
Well, yeah, so I'm answering someone online. They want to know about remote learning when they start, but I just said that. We have questions regarding schedules and when will they get those in the mail, and will remote learning only people get those schedules as well?
We say September 3rd,
Yeah,
right?
September, that's our target. All
September
students will get their
3rd.
schedule.
Yeah.
A question regarding the Spectrum free. A person has been saying they've contacted Spectrum and no one responds, and she's contacted school and no one's responded, but we don't set up the Spectrum form, so it has to be direct contact to Spectrum.
I told our IT person about that. I think it's a situation where they don't have access to Wi-Fi either.
Right.
So it won't work in that situation.
Hotspot won't work.
Yeah, no. So yeah, I said that in the beginning. There was a couple very specific individuals who don't have either Wi-Fi or cellular. So we're working on that. there was somebody that called the school today that was that situation, so we'll be following up. We do have a contact at Spectrum that's working with us to help out with that process. The school has joined forces with them, so I can reach out to Spectrum and get back to that person individually. So just write to me, and I will get you information on that.
Let's see. It's really, there's not a lot today.
I can answer the question about the frequently asked questions section for the website. It was added this morning, so if you go to the special alerts banner, the yellow banner, at the top of the home page, you'll find a link, frequently asked questions. It is there now.
In elementary school, a parent wants to know how their child will bring things back and forth to school without a backpack, but they won't be needing to bring anything back and forth to school, will they?
Yeah, supplies are going to be really limited, so the intention is not to have anything. But there's going to be letters coming out from each building,
Right.
respectively, that'll tell them what they should plan to bring and specific to their building. So
The only thing I think they can bring is their own lunch, and
Yeah,
that
that's
is
it.
all disposable material.
Yeah. In addition, I don't know, is Sarah on our call?
No, Sarah actually just wrote me, she's coming here for our 2 o'clock.
For the 2 o'clock, okay, good. That's what I thought. She was coming for 2. But there had been some guidance on backpack, soft cloth, the soft materials. So initially it was said that we didn't want to have those in buildings, and then more of the COVID concerns have become about spreading it through the air, not so much as material. So that's going to be building level decisions, and we understand the difficulty of that. But the goal is just to have less supplies and less need for the backpacks. Well, it's good. That means we can answer
Answer
some
some
questions.
questions about what the day is going to look like for remote learning, if you're on the remote learning option only, or if you're on another day where there's remote learning. They want to
Sarah, you
know what
guys
it's
have
going to
that
look
sheet.
like, what time does it
Do you want me to show
start,
that?
is it going to be
Do you want me to show that document?
flexible?
So first, yeah, so the question is what, I can speak for the high school per se and the middle school. What remote learning will look like for a student in the middle school or high school, you'll be assigned to, it's all based on the number of requests or how many students have that particular class, especially in the high school. There's some
Right.
classes we cannot offer remote learning because it's a singleton,
Right.
or we only offer 2 sections. So that model's gonna look different. But if you take a class such as algebra, earth science, global 1, global 10, and there's multiple sections of that, you'd be assigned specifically to a remote learning class, and you take that class during a specific time. So if you had 3rd period global 2, that's when you report to it.
Right.
But all that will be spelled out on your schedule.
Okay.
On your schedule, it'll be identified as a remote learning section, right?
Mhm.
And so it'll be very clear.
Good. Thank you.
Mr. Birdie, this is Mrs. Decker. How are you?
Hi there. Hello. Thank you for joining in. Go ahead.
Hi. So I shared a document just about elementary and what that might look like. I don't know, Sandra, if you have it or someone to pull it up, that kind of outlines what the day would look like remotely. If parents chose the remote option. And also, down at the bottom, that's what it would look like for purple, for gold, and down at the bottom, really talking about synchronous, that live teaching that would happen every day for those kids that are remote. So that kind of outlines that.
Do I have it here? Oh, you think that'll do it? Okay. All right, I'm trying to pull it up here, Donna. Hybrid model.
So basically, if they're remote, I think that was what the question was, what it would look like if they were fully remote. We're looking at that they would have synchronous learning with the teacher, live teaching every day. And then they would have synchronous activities that go along with that, asynchronous activities.
Good. Okay.
Like early in the morning.
Yeah, and that's morning for elementary, right, Donna?
Morning, like 8:30 to 9:30, or 8:40 to 9:30, right, Donna?
We're looking at the live teaching being scheduled before the students arrive from between the hour of 8:30 and 9:30.
Okay.
Mhm.
It's for everybody too. Synchronous is that it's going on right now. We're synchronous that we're live and able to interact. Asynchronous is that it's recorded. They can go see it at their own time and their own pace. Is asynchronous. So that's the the difference between those two, what we're looking at when we're talking about that. So that's an excellent document. Thank you, Donna. Okay. Good. All right. Other questions?
No, I was just looking up the link for Spectrum and I can't cut and paste it in there, but.
We'll get it out there.
Because it's there. They have a whole COVID-19 page. If you go on their website, you can actually ask a live person, send the questions, and they will tell you what you need to do.
Good.
I just looked it up.
Okay.
I think this particular case, again, is gonna be one without Wi-Fi. It's a certain person that's having trouble since last year.
Yeah.
Even trying to.
Very specific.
Get at it, but we're gonna need to work with her directly.
Yeah.
And if she lives in the town of Florida or
Yeah.
Route 5 towards Glenville area, Patterson Telephone Company is also offering free internet for families.
Are they really Patterson Telephone Company? Okay. That's helpful. All right. Yeah, so we have very specific areas that we'll have to deal with on a case by case. So, all right, good. Well, hopefully this was the intent, that if we cover the topics and answer the questions you've had previously, that the forums wouldn't have so much to go over. So that's good to hear. So we'll do a couple more.
This was a question we talked about earlier today, and we didn't bring it up, is what about the students who are remote only, but their parents work? What's going to happen to them if they can't access it until evening?
Yeah, and that's been a question. So participation is important, and we've said that you have to participate. So students who, parents are not home during the day, if kids complete the work in the afternoon or nighttime when parents are home, that still counts. We need to have some documentation that they've completed an assignment that day and they participated. And that's where that asynchronous learning helps out, that if they can't be part of the live synchronous during the day, they can go back on if teachers have recorded any items or posted material that they can review and then submit work through their Google Meets or Google Classroom. So they just have to show evidence that they've completed work for that day and participated in some level. So that will work. Obviously, the model is set up to be a little easier that it's during the day, but they will get credit for participation if they're doing the work and ultimately have documentation of that.
Yeah, the last three questions were regarding, being in daycare, not going to be able to get on.
And that answers that, right? So that's good.
Okay.
All right, good. All right. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your participation, and keep sending the questions in. Mr. Netzel's keeping a list of the frequently asked questions that come up. As I said, our building principals have really done a tremendous job on their end. Our forums have been focused on the district level, kind of a broad 10,000-foot view. And so those specific questions we can, get out to the buildings, but know that the schedules come out September 3rd. So hopefully that'll answer a lot of your questions that you have that are specific to the building too. So keep having those questions come forward. The last forum we have is tomorrow night before the board meeting at 5 o'clock is our last parent forum. So tune in then if you have questions. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.